Hello again. No time for love, Dr. Jones. We're going straight over to PMQs here. Let's go.
There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer about how this was ever allowed to happen. Yep. The chair of the Defence Committee has indicated that he intends to hold further inquiries. I welcome that and hope that those who were in office at the time will welcome that scrutiny. Mr. Speaker, President Macron's state visit last week saw us secure historic agreements, coordinating our nuclear deterrence, a major investment in Sizewell C, and a landmark returns deal, a crucial next step in restoring order to our immigration system. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, I will host Chancellor Merz for further talks on our security and the economy. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Families in Burton and Uttoxeter are watching their smart meters like hawks and dreading that moment when their energy bill lands on the doorstep.
Gone up to 11
so I welcome Labour's warm
Let me know
homes
if that's
discount.
not loud
It's going to mean
enough for you.
£150 off energy bills for millions of people across this country, providing meaningful support in these difficult times. Can the Prime Minister set out how this is going to help support families in my constituency and around the country?
Prime Minister. Well, I thank him for his question. I, of course, met his constituent Nicola in her kitchen, and she told me about how hard she's working to support her three children, but the past decade has let her down with false promises and public services array. Mr. Speaker, she told me about the difference the warm homes discount will make, £150 off energy bills, and she had a meter, if I recall, in her kitchen recording how much energy she was using, and it would make all the difference to her, is what she told me. And I promise Nicola, my honourable friend, there's much more to come.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Oh, here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the head of the OBR warned the government that higher and higher levels of taxes are bad for growth. Does the Prime Minister agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what's bad for growth. 14 years of a Tory government.
Hey, straight in there with 14 years.
Stagnant growth for 14 years, leaving a £22 billion black hole.
Oh, and the
What we've
2022
achieved, Mr. Speaker, in the first quarter of this year is the highest growth in the G7, something we promised before the election. Investment of £120 billion into this country, which is a record.
How is he
in the
so
first year of
bad
any
at this? He just
government,
basically
and
stood up
free
and said,
trade deals, all of which will boost growth.
Can you talk about how great you are?
Mr. Speaker, he's talking about what he
waste of a
achieved.
question.
We just heard that inflation is up again, the worst in the G7. We left him with 2% inflation. We have borrowing up.
You got it up to 11%. 11%.
The Prime Minister doesn't get it, so let me tell him.
Did it go into minus
budget
figures?
Last year had high taxes. That's why the economy is contracting.
No.
But, Mr. Speaker, the government has said that they won't put up taxes for people on modest incomes. But they also seem incapable of explaining who is in that category. So can the Prime Minister clear up the confusion and tell us what he thinks a modest income is?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think of the working people across this country who put in every day and don't get back what they deserve, and that's who we're working for. That's who we're fixing the country. The sort of people that work hard but haven't necessarily got the savings to buy themselves out of problems. And, Mr. Speaker, that's who we're working for, and that's why we put the national living wage up. That's an extra £1,400. The national minimum wage up. That's £2,500 a year. The triple lock, Mr. Speaker, that went up pension up £470. And, of course, we're extending childcare, opening free breakfast clubs and free school meals. We know exactly who we're working for. She comes here every week and just talks the country down.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not talking the country down, I'm talking him down. I asked him.
Finally got that line out.
I asked him what a modest income was. He answered what a working person is. He doesn't know what a modest income is, and even on working people, they cannot define it. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury said that working people are people who don't get a payslip. But millions of self-employed people don't get a payslip. So are the self-employed next in line for a Labour tax rate?
The self-employed were the very people who suffered under their watch, repeatedly suffered under their watch, particularly, if I remember, during COVID, when they didn't get the support that they needed. But she talks the country down. She cherry-picks We have created, Mr. Speaker, since we've been in government, we've created 380,000 jobs. The employment rate is up and inactivity is down. The complete opposite of what we inherited.
I'll put myself slightly quieter
where
than
these 3,000 jobs are coming from. Unemployment has gone up every month under his government. And perhaps he should speak to farmers and small business people and find out what those working people think about his government. But, Mr. Speaker, that's not all. We know the Chancellor is launching a review into pension contributions. It's as clear as day why this is. It is because the government is considering taxing them. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that a tax on pension contributions is a tax on working people?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made absolutely clear manifesto commitments, which she asked me about last week and we're keeping to. I'm not going to write the budget months out from the budget. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the decisions that we took to invest in our NHS, to invest in our public services, all the decisions that they opposed. And it's no wonder that after a first year of a Labour government, business confidence is a 9-year high. That's longer than she's been in government. Mr. Speaker, 384, I'm not withdrawing, I'm going to repeat. Business confidence is at a 9-year high.
It dipped a bit after Brexit,
Mr. Speaker, he says he's not going to write the budget, but his Chancellor is on the front of the Daily Mirror talking about what she's going to do on taxes. So why can't he do the same in the chamber? Yes. But I asked him about pension contributions. The truth is he doesn't want to talk about pension contributions. It's all right for the Prime Minister. He has his own special law to stop his personal pension from being taxed. But let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, this is really about choices. My party knows that there is an alternative to tax rises. It's cutting spending, something that they are too scared or perhaps too weak to do. We offered to work with him to reform welfare and make meaningful savings. But his refusal sent a signal, and now the cost of borrowing is rising. The budget is in November, that is months away, and the markets may not wait. What will the Prime Minister be doing over the summer to get a grip on the cost of borrowing?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they left the most incredible mess in the economy, and now they think that they can lecture others. I think just last week their chairman said that they've done the necessary apologising for the 14 years of failure. They've done the necessary. I didn't hear an apology for the lowest living standards in living history. I didn't hear an apology for the £22 billion black hole. I didn't hear an apology for the Liz Truss mini budget. So maybe she should like to stand up and make that apology now.
Mr. Speaker, he's not doing... Yes. Mr. Speaker, he's not planning on doing anything this summer to fix the economy. The shadow of the last budget is hanging over the entire country. Just yesterday, only the Conservatives supported the two-child benefit cap because only the Conservatives believe in living within our means. Not Labour, not the Liberal Democrats, not Reform, but it's the end of term, Mr. Speaker, so why don't we go through his end of term scorecard? The economy is contracting. Inflation, highest in the G7. Unemployment, up every month under this government. Spending, out of control. Borrowing costs, more expensive than Greece. And this is just the first year, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party should be ashamed of what it is doing to the country.
What the fuck are you on? You should be ashamed of what you did to the country.
Mr. Speaker, they can shake their heads as much as they like. The fact is, this summer, they're going to have to go to their constituents and explain why they've been making such a mess over the last 12 months. And isn't the case, Mr. Speaker, that the worst, given that this is just their first year, the worst is yet to come?
So many shit things Labour have done that you could nail them on.
Constituents. We're going to tell them we promised 2 million extra NHS appointments and we delivered 4 million extra appointments. Mr. Speaker, I've got to upgrade that. It's now 4.5 million extra appointments. So we're going to tell our constituents that. Then we're going to tell them about the free school meals we're rolling about. The free childcare and school uniform costs. We'll tell them about that. And then when we've done that, we'll move on to affordable houses and tell them about the £39 billion we're investing. When we finish that, we'll tell them about the rail and road upgrades across the country, the £120 billion investment, and of course the 3 trade deals. And Mr. Speaker, we're only just getting started.
She's so bad at it. Like, again, she just allowed him an excuse to
Mr. Speaker.
This is the last PMQs.
The Prime Minister will never know exactly how much it meant to victims of the Troubles in Northern Ireland from right across society, when he came, looked them in their eyes and promised them that no murderer would be immune from prosecution. Can he tell us when the last time he spoke to the Taoiseach about the shared approach to this issue was, and can he recommit today to those victims to ensure that no murderer will be seen as above the law?
She's so bad at it. That's the mad
Prime
thing.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is a really important issue. Can I begin by saying I have a profound respect and debt to our veterans who served. This is a complicated issue, and we've got to get this right.
You know what? I keep forgetting. I've got a working people one that I never use.
Veterans are at risk because of the false promises of the last government. Let's be clear. They made a false promise of immunity that does not exist. It was unlawful, it was struck down, and it was undeliverable. Their failed Legacy Act leaves veterans exposed with no settled process. We will create a secure, transparent system that protects veterans from unjustified persecution and gives victims, families and survivors the confidence that they need in the process.
Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Liberal Democrats.
What an absolute arse.
Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's words about the shocking Afghan data breach under the previous government kept secret for 3 years? And he will have our support if he decides to pursue a public inquiry.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Prime Minister will agree that the shocking rise of anti-Semitism we have seen since Hamas's October the 7th terror attacks has no place in our society.
Agreed.
British Jews should not have to live in fear of hatred, racism and abuse on our streets or online. A new report from the Board of Deputies Commission on Anti-Semitism, chaired by Lord Mann and Dame Penny Mordaunt, has set out 10 recommendations to tackle this appalling scourge. Will the Prime Minister study this report, and will his government respond to it in full?
Prime Minister.
Yes, we will, and we must fight anti-Semitism wherever we find it, as we must fight all hate offences, crimes and incidents wherever we find them.
But what about against trans people?
Can I thank the Prime Minister for that reply? I hope we will see
people?
more action
Like what
to
you've been
tackle
doing.
anti-Semitism.
Yeah, Gallifrey mentioned.
Turning to the Middle East now, Mr. Speaker,
Can you not
the
tell
world
trans
is looking
people
on
for a
in
moment?
horror at the scenes from Gaza.
Yeah.
And now Netanyahu's ministers want to lock the whole population of Gaza into effectively
camps.
a giant prison.
A concentration camp.
A plan that would clearly amount to ethnic cleansing,
Yeah.
as former Israeli Prime Minister Olmert has said. Does the Prime Minister agree that this is utterly abhorrent and unacceptable? And will he make clear to the Israeli government that the UK will not stand idly by and will act, starting by sanctioning Prime Minister Netanyahu himself?
Prime Minister.
Well, I am appalled by these suggestions in relation to Gaza, just as I'm appalled by the reports of yet more civilians being killed whilst trying to access aid. So on both fronts, I'm appalled by what we are seeing and what we're hearing. We raise it regularly, as he would expect. In relation to the civilians being killed, I would expect them to be fully and transparently investigated with full accountability for any failings. And Israel must clearly put in place measures that properly protect civilians in line with international law. And that is the case we're pressing repeatedly. But we do also want to see, and alongside that, an immediate ceasefire so that the hostages, the remaining hostages, can be brought out
chat if this
and
is distorting. Is this voice
at volume
distorting?
and at speed can be got in, and a political process opened that, in my view, is the only way we're going to get a lasting solution.
Hand it back now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, 4-year-old Eli Tester was killed in Rottenstall Cemetery when a memorial stone fell on him. All of Rosendale was shocked by this tragedy, so I hope the Prime Minister will join me in offering our deepest condolences to Eli's parents and family. And Mr. Speaker, families in Rosendale are also deeply concerned about reports that Reform-led Lancashire County Council are considering cuts to nursery funding. This would raise costs for working parents and might even force some nurseries to close. If this is an example of the sort of efficiencies that Reform are considering, then all of Lancashire, indeed all of us, should be worried. So would the Prime Minister join me in asking Lancashire County Council to think again?
Prime Minister.
Can I extend my deepest condolences to Eli's friends and family? And I do join him in urging the new Reform Council to think again and to change their mind on damaging cuts that hit children and young families. I have to say, my honourable friend is doing a much better job than his predecessor, the Conservative Party chairman under Liz Truss, who has now joined Reform, which proves once again, if you vote Tory, you get Reform, and if you vote Reform, you get the Tories. Whilst both of them are cutting services at home, we support families with free school meals, free breakfast clubs, and extending free childcare.
Desmond
Jack
Swain.
Straw told us
How
that
are
the
you
98
still
Act
an
places
MP?
on us no expectation that we will remedy a declaration of incompatibility issued by a court.
They have to
so the
summon
Prime Minister
him.
is
Do they
wrong
have to do like a
to say
ring
that
of
the
salt,
Legacy Act is
draw a
struck
pentacle
down.
in the middle of it?
But his own proposals, which open the door to compensation to Gerry Adams and place in jeopardy our own servicemen, present enormous difficulty to those of us who have served, increasingly on his own benches.
Privately
Will he
educated,
consider
of course,
that?
Desmond Swain. He's on the private school mafia list.
Mr. Speaker, the failed Legacy Act was struck down by the courts in Northern Ireland. And that leaves veterans exposed. What we're doing is creating a secure, transparent system that protects veterans from unjustified persecution, but also gives victims, families and survivors the confidence that they need in the process.
Or war.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Workers in Rochdale on the minimum wage received a much-needed pay rise this summer, thanks to this government. But honest businesses are being undermined by the menace of illegal working, particularly illegal working by illegal migrants from Iran and Iraq in bogus barber shops and fake vape shops. So will the Prime Minister agree with me that we need to speed up the rollout of digital ID, particularly to help our police and immigration staff crack down on this grey market that ruins our high streets and undercuts the workers' pay of British workers?
Well, my honourable friend is an excellent champion for Rochdale and a strong supporter, I know, of his local police and trading standards teams. Since we came to power, Mr. Speaker, we've ramped up enforcement raids on illegal working. Arrests have gone up by 50%, and we're tightening the law on delivery drivers. Digital ID will help us tackle illegal working, and we're rolling out the use of e-visas to have digital records of immigration status.
I usually set this up in
and
advance,
checks
but
to
obviously
allow
I had no
on-the-spot
chance
checks
to
of anybody's right
test
to
the
work.
levels out and stuff. I've turned them down a bit.
Severe pregnancy sickness, hyperemesis gravidarum or HG, can mean vomiting more than 20 times a day. It causes physical discomfort, acute malnutrition and severe dehydration, which often leads to hospitalisation. It has profound and long-lasting mental health consequences. Recently it was reported the woman took her own life after being denied access to the only licensed treatment, Zomvia. Tragically, her unborn child died too. The drug is licensed and available, yet women face a cruel postcode lottery to access it. Will the Prime Minister work urgently with the Department for Health to end this scandal so that every woman who needs Zomvia can get it wherever she lives? And will he meet with me and campaigners to look at this as a matter of urgency?
Well, I thank him for raising this really important issue, and obviously incredibly sorry to hear about the tragic case that he mentions. As he will know, the availability of this drug is regulated across the NHS by NICE, who make decisions on which treatments provide the best care for patients whilst maintaining value for money with the taxpayer. But I will make sure that he gets a meeting with the relevant minister to see what more can be done to get this treatment to patients who need it.
Levandu Mishra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in Stockport, approximately 20% of families live in social housing. After Stockport Liberal Democrat and Conservative councillors blocked the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework proposal in 2020, the need for social housing is even more critical. Far too many families are living in insecure, overcrowded accommodation, waiting years for a suitable family home. I welcome Labour's record-breaking £39 billion investment into social and affordable housing, and I want to make sure that communities like mine in Stockport are prioritised. So can I ask the Prime Minister to confirm that these homes will be built, they will be affordable, and will he look again at suspending the right to buy?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are delivering the biggest boost to social and affordable housing in a generation, and proud to do so. our £39 billion investment will deliver around 300,000 sociable and affordable homes, with at least 60% of homes delivered for social rent. Mr. Speaker, whilst we don't intend to remove the right to buy, which helps social tenants get on the property ladder, we're reforming the scheme to protect social housing stock and encourage councils to deliver more new homes.
Julian Smith.
Mr. Speaker, a much better understanding of the particular needs of autistic and neurodiverse children is vital to expand capacity in mainstream education for SEND pupils. Can I urge him, as he looks at this bill over the summer, the SEND bill, to introduce mandatory training for all teachers and all staff on autism and neurodiversity?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for that contribution, because parents and children have been failed far too often. We are committing an additional £1 billion into SEND, but there must be meaningful reform alongside it, and new teachers must have the appropriate training. So we're committed to reviewing, to working with parents and teachers, and we'll take away his suggestion, and I invite him and others across the House to work with us on this important reform, because I think this issue has been raised more than any other with me at Prime Minister's question. It's clearly a broken system. It needs reform, and if we can work together across the House to get it right, I think that is the least we owe to parents and children across the country. Thank you.
Blocker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I commend the Prime Minister for his work in tackling arbitrary detention of British citizens abroad and warmly welcome the creation of a special envoy. The Prime Minister will know of the anguish of the families of Jimmy Lai, Ryan Cornelius, Abdel Fattah, Jagtar Singh Johal and others. So can he tell us when he anticipates the appointment of the envoy, and will they have real powers like their counterparts in Canada and the United States to help bring our people home?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I start by thanking him for his work on the APBG, championing the plight of British nationals facing the most difficult circumstances overseas. We do routinely raise these cases with international counterparts, as he would expect, and we're deeply committed to getting them home and united with their loved ones. As part of strengthening support for British nationals overseas, we are working at pace to get the envoy role set up, and I'll make sure that he's kept updated in relation to that.
Blake Stibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Government plans for English devolution and NHS reform suggest that integrated care boards should align with new strategic authorities. The government's plan for Bedfordshire won't currently achieve this. So what assurances can the Prime Minister provide that local NHS reorganisation will be good value for money, improve local accountability and deliver the healthcare services needed to serve my constituents in rural mid-Bedfordshire, including the much-needed GP surgery in Wixham's?
Prime Minister.
The points to make about good value for money and accountability are really important. They're embedded in the work we're doing with the NHS at the moment, which is improving under our watch, not only the waiting lists, but in other respects. The 10-year plan for the NHS, which is intended to ensure that the NHS is fit for the future, has a number of principles, including principles of local accountability.
Brandish.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 11th of June, Alexander Dennis announced that it was planning to stop bus manufacturing in Scotland. My honourable friend from Falkirk and I have both met with the workers, the trade unions, the company and both UK and Scottish Government ministers to see how closure can be averted. Alexander Dennis needs commitment of orders for 2025 and 2026, and elected mayors are ideally placed to do this. Our industrial strategy is right when it says where things are made and by whom matters. So, can the Prime Minister assure Alexander Dennis and the workers that he believes bus manufacturing should have a future in Larbert and Falkirk?
Prime Minister.
I'm grateful to him for raising this, and I'm deeply concerned. It is a deeply concerning time for the workers and their families in Falkirk. I do agree, and we are working with mayors and local leaders to develop a pipeline of future orders for zero emissions buses, and that's an important aspect here. And the Minister of Local Transport is hosting an urgent meeting of the bus manufacturing expert panel. Mr. Speaker, while Labour mayors in England are ordering Scottish buses, the SNP are ordering buses from China. Just like they ordered ships from Turkey and Poland, not Scottish shipyards. The SNP should be backing Scottish workers.
Take it the SNP there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Could I begin by warmly congratulating the Prime Minister on his first year in office, acknowledge that the Labour manifesto was beautifully written, deeply moving, and like that other great blockbuster of hope and redemption, The Salt Path, a total pack of lies. With joblessness, inflation, and debt ballooning, his personal ratings collapsing, and his backbenchers on a work to rule, could the Prime Minister recommend?
Come on, let's get on with the question.
Could the Prime Minister recommend a summer recess read in order to take all our minds away from the calamitous journey on which he and the Chancellor have
privately
embarked?
educated, Glenalmond College.
I think most of the backbenchers are already on their summer recess, looking at the benches opposite Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, where are they?
We are very proud of our manifesto. It was a very successful manifesto, giving a landslide victory, and now we're very proud to be implementing it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let us be clear in this House. Israel is starving Palestinian children. That is a war crime. Israel is killing Palestinian children as they queue for food. That is a war crime.
Yep.
Our government quite rightly imposes thousands of sanctions on Russia for its war crimes in Ukraine.
Yep.
How many more horrors must we witness before the Prime Minister acts with the same scale of sanctions against Israel to stop this genocide? Don't Palestinian lives matter?
Hear, hear. Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, I'm appalled by reports of more civilians being killed in Gaza, particularly when they are
every day being
trying to access aid. And each of those incidents does need to be fully and transparently investigated, with accountability for any failing. That, of course, has to be alongside the ceasefire that is desperately needed, and we're working hard with others to achieve, to release all of the hostages that remain, but also to protect civilians and get much more aid at speed and volume into Gaza.
That was such a fucking milquetoast fucking answer there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can see why you call these sessions Prime Minister's questions and not Prime Minister's answers.
Lincoln, you card! Lincoln drop.
Come on, Lincoln drop.
Lincoln,
Thank you, Mr.
hello.
Speaker. Following the magnificent success of the England cricket team earlier on this week,
Goes about the cricket.
and the triumphal return
Do you reckon
of
he's going
Mr.
to mention
Joffre
fucking
Archer,
Spitfires now?
would the Prime Minister agree
St.
that
Paul's
what he
School.
needs to get from his ministers
Independent.
over the next
Boarding
12
school for
months
boys.
is more
Day
pace
school.
and less spin?
Lincoln drop there.
Prime Ministers have
Very
delivered
far.
on the NHS, on the economy, on rail, etc. He needs a break.
He can't even be arsed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just stand up and insult the Prime Minister.
Successive Conservative governments failed to invest in the North East transport infrastructure. Whilst the Labour government is already changing that with the 1.8 billion recently secured for the region. Upgrading Moor Farm and Seaton Burn roundabouts can build on that, unlocking growth, and it's supported by local people and businesses.
Should do a food blog.
Does the Prime Minister share my disappointment that rather than support my campaign for upgrades, the Conservative leadership in Northumberland County Council are actively undermining my lobbying efforts to deliver this game changer for the North East?
Prime Minister. She's doing a superb job for Northumberland, and I'm happy to set out what we've delivered. Over
Desmond
£400
Swain has
million
walked off.
of funding for Northumberland
Desmond
County
Swain has
Council
left the
this year.
building.
That's a 5.8% increase this year, Mr. Speaker, an 80% increase in the number of homes starting construction in her area, a near £30 million increase in funding for Northumbria Police, and 14 free breakfast clubs in Northumberland supporting over 3,000 children. That's the difference a Labour government makes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
During my meetings with guests on the Homes for Ukraine scheme in my Newton Abbot constituency, they are telling me that they are worried about their visas running out, even with the 18-month extension.
Yeah.
They see reports of Ukrainians being refused asylum in the UK since it's said to be safe to return to Ukraine, even while Putin's missiles explode in Ukraine cities in record numbers. Some of their children are working through 2 or 3 year education courses and are frightened of having to leave. Will the Prime Minister meet with them and myself to hear their plight and offer them some hope in this uncertain and dangerous world?
Good question. Thank you, Liberal
Well, I thank him for raising this, and we're proud to have offered or extended sanctuary to over 300,000 Ukrainians and their families throughout the visa scheme since the invasion in 2022. We do need to provide certainty and security for Ukrainians in the United Kingdom, and we will provide an additional 18 months permission to remain in the UK and continued rights to live, work and study here as well.
James Brett. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2017, I led a select committee inquiry that warned of an emerging disaster in SEND. Those warnings went unheeded by the Conservatives, who left behind a broken system, which even they have admitted since is lose, lose, lose. Can the Prime Minister confirm that this Labour government's rebuilt SEND system will be shaped by listening to the needs of SEN families, never again ignored, but served in the best traditions of a Labour government?
Prime Minister.
Well, he's right, and I think there's general agreement across the House that the system is broken, just like almost everything they touched, which was broken at the end of 14 miserable years. It doesn't work for parents, and it lets down children, and we will reform it. We're already investing an additional £1 billion, but we do need a system that truly supports every child. We're developing proposals, and I want to work across the House in order to get the right outcome.
Final question, Pepe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yet again, we're suffering record-breaking heat waves and drought, which are worrying people in my constituency of South Cambridgeshire, which are both the fastest growing and the most water-stressed area in the country. The proposed Fens Reservoir is important, but will only provide water for the already ambitious house-building plans, not the thousands of new homes that the government proposes. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that the water crisis in Greater Cambridge is a deal-breaker for the government's growth plans, and will he help me urgently convene a ministerial roundtable with the Cambridge Water Scarcity Group?
She's right to draw attention to the drought and the question more generally of reservoirs. It is shocking that a new reservoir hasn't been built for a very, very long time, not at all in the previous 14 years. We are rebuilding now, and we're doing that alongside the infrastructure and housing that we also need to build, and we'll work across the House on that.
We'll let the front benches change
Cut
over.
the microphones! Cut the microphones! Okay. Oh my God, my ears fucking... I've got tinnitus after all that shit. Jesus Christ. Is there going to be there's an urgent question about Sudan that's coming up, but we're not going to cover that. So yeah, that's it for this marathon sesh. Well, it's not. I'll talk to you for a bit. We've got Kruti is a reason why there's been almost no mention of this Afghanistan issue. Am I wrong to think this is one of the biggest public scandals we have seen? Should end the Tories, in my opinion. Crutty. I was a bit surprised that not more was made of it, but I think maybe because it wasn't Labour who were in when it happened. I think if it'd still been the Tories in and this had happened or come out, I think that every single question would have been about it. But it's a bit difficult to send a message, ask the Prime Minister a question. And Ed Davey did. He said, if you want to do an inquiry into this, we will support it. But it just, I think, absolutely typifies the shiteness of the Conservative Party. They are just absolutely fucking awful. And it's not just their ideas that are bad. It's their incompetence, and it's their arrogant, sense of entitlement, that they are born to rule. You have so many of these Tory MPs standing up to ask questions, and as they're asking their fucking question, and the question's not even a question, it's just an insult. It's just a childish insult at the Prime Minister, at the government, which, you know, be clever about it. Maybe insult them a little bit in your question, but then ask a good question. But they ask daft questions like, so when are you going to stop being so shit? And every time a Lib Dem MP stands up, or a Green, or Plaid Cymru, or even the SNP a lot of the time, I know sometimes they just have a go, but like they often ask good questions, good constructive questions that I want to hear the answer to from the Prime Minister. But instead, we get that every time a Tory stands up, my heart sinks because I think, oh God, here we go. Isn't it true, Prime Minister, that you smell of poos and wheeze? Prime Minister stands up, no. Sits back down again. Or, since you became Prime Minister, all these bad things have happened. Let me list the bad things. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to stand up. I'm going to list all the good things I've done. I'm going to turn this threat into an opportunity. I've done my little SWAT. My SWAT plan. Fucking very frustrating. But yeah, I guess that's why they didn't talk about this Afghan scandal so much. But if it has cost the taxpayer £7 billion, that's the most expensive mistake in UK history, I think. I think that's more expensive than Concorde, which in hindsight, more expensive than the DeLorean, which was going to restart car manufacturing in Northern Ireland. So the Thatcher government gave loads of money to DeLorean to build like 3 cars, none of which sold. But they could go back in time, so that was quite cool. Pippa must be a Barbie fan. I struggled to warm to the Lib Dems after the history, but I can't deny they come across really well these days. Yeah, they did. And look, you know, I do feel like if we harp on about the past all the time, we're not going to be able to move forward, because the Lib Dems did shit things in the past. Labour did particularly shit things in the past. The Greens have done shit things in the past. There is no party really that is absolutely blameless in things that they've done in the past. And I feel like, well, if enough of the people who represent that party, if enough of the personnel has changed, and I know Ed Davey was there during the coalition government, but the vast majority of MPs who are now Lib Dem MPs were not part of that coalition government. So, and again, the vast number of Labour MPs were no part of the Blair years when he decided 22 years ago to invade Iraq with devastating consequences. The knock-on effects we're still seeing to this day. I did think that was a very good question, a very powerfully put question by the MP who stood up to criticise the government's stance on Gaza, on Israel, sanctions on Benjamin Netanyahu, a wanted war criminal. I'm sorry, I didn't write. I should have written his name down when he was talking, but it was a little bit sort of like, I want to listen to this. And I don't think the reply was particularly good. It felt very much like a stock reply that they come out with. They just go, oh yeah, we're doing all we can to free the hostages and stop the carnage and bring together a two-state solution. But at the same time, this government will not recognise Palestine as an independent state. So how does that work? How do you have a two-state solution if there's only one state? You know? So yeah, she loved Hubba Bubba. What's this, Pippa? What? I missed a bit there. I missed a bit. Sorry, like a bad barber, I missed a bit. Fair point, they don't get much coverage. I do feel like they come across well in PMQs specifically, though. They do. Talking about the Lib Dems. Grim Frang says it's hard to forgive them for enabling the Tories but they're a better spot now, and I personally feel like a Lib Lab coalition would help Labour be more progressive. Yeah, but neither of them are particularly good on trans issues. Neither of them are showering themselves in glory on trans issues. The only party in Parliament right now that is actively standing up and defending trans people are the Greens. Carla Dania, who's actually turning up and putting the effort in to say, yeah, we need to defend trans people because they're being attacked from all sides for no reason other than their existence. And new guidance was published yesterday for local authorities, and it is effectively bringing back Section 28, which is when you're not allowed to talk about homosexuality. This is what was in place when I was in school, the whole time that I was in secondary school. And for 5 years, I was in an all-boys school, and we weren't allowed to talk about any kind of homosexual feelings, homosexual sex, homosexual life. It wasn't allowed. And now they're doing the same thing to trans people. They are trying to erase trans people. And the people who are trying to do this the loudest and most grotesque way are people who are saying that the existence of trans people erases women. And when they say that, they're talking about trans men. Because a big problem that a lot of TERFs have with trans people is when a term that they think should be woman, so they'll say pregnant woman, but the actual, document or sign or whatever they're looking at says pregnant person, to incorporate trans men who can become pregnant. And that's what they're upset about. But hang on, these are the people who believe in biological determinism or some such bullshit, that whatever gender you are assigned at birth must be the gender that you are. So in their little smooth brains, they think that trans men are women, and yet they won't stand up for the rights of these women. So how do they have it both ways? They can demonize trans women and say, oh, you're not a woman. You will never be a woman. Okay, well then a trans man will never not be a woman. So it's fine. If you want to put on your literature pregnant people or people who menstruate, it's not taking anything away from women, and it's not erasing women. There is no guidance for local authorities, local education authorities to say, oh, you're not allowed to talk about women. But there is that says that you can't talk about trans women. That's going to kick in September 2026. And it's Section 28 all over again, except this time it's for trans people. And Labour are bringing that in, and it's a fucking disgrace. It is an absolute fucking disgrace, as is what is happening in Gaza. I don't understand why we can't have big sanctions against Israel. Do we buy that much Israeli shit? I don't fucking think so. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And we are still selling weapons to Israel. I know they had a look at what we were selling them, and had a look at dialing down some of the weapons that we were selling that could be used to injure or kill innocent civilians in Gaza, but we're still selling stuff. Thanks very much to Paula Thomas for the first super chat. I think it's the first super chat of this broadcast. Well, we could have a one-state solution, but Jews would be a minority. Maybe we should do that. I mean, there are ways of getting around that, like in Lebanon, I believe, because the clash in Lebanon wasn't Jews versus Muslims, it was Christians versus Muslims. And so when they made a new constitution, they said, I think it was the prime minister and the president can't be both the same faith, so one of them has to be Christian, the other one has to be Muslim, or vice versa. I don't know how they put that across. I think it seems a bit discriminatory against atheists like myself, but if it works, it works. But yeah, I obviously having representation is very important for Jewish people living in Israel. But at the same time, I think it's very important that people who don't want to be seen as Israeli are given self-determination. Our solution might be something akin to the Good Friday Agreement, where you're all part of the Holy Land, and if you want to regard yourself as Israeli, you can get an Israeli passport, and if you want to regard yourself as Palestinian, you have a Palestinian passport, and then you have regions that are Palestinian-controlled and regions that are Israeli-controlled, and one doesn't have necessarily power over the other. I don't know. It's complex. It's messy. There is no simple solution to this, to what's going on in Israel and Palestine. However, it irks me that so many people just want war for the rest of the time. That's all they want. That's all Trump wants, all the MAGA lot, the Tories over here. They just want eternal war in the Middle East. And there's so few voices calling, not on the side of Israel, not on the side of Palestine, but to say, I'm on the side of peace. Let's stop this madness. Let's stop this madness. Unfortunately, there has been no real concerted international effort to stop what was happening in Israel and Palestine since the 90s. Since the 90s, probably since the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, that was probably the last time that there was a big international effort to bring peace to that region. And that was 30 years ago. I think 30 years ago this year. We've had nothing. We had no movement whatsoever. Really, really grim. Really, really grim. Trip, being a minority is fine. Most people would agree as long as they have the same rights. Yep. Hold up. I read the guidance and they aren't saying trans people aren't to be talked about. It's explicitly part of the curriculum. So what I've seen, Grimfang, I'm going to just read it out. Let's just go and discover it. Hang on a sec. This will take me a moment, but I will do this. And while I'm doing this, it did say external materials shouldn't directly encourage questioning gender, but it also said gender reassignment is a protected characteristic and must be taught. Yeah, so they're not allowed to tell children that it's okay to feel like to question their gender identity. I think that's what it said. And just let me bring it up so I can actually take bits out of the extract. Just trying to find it now. Let's have a look. Hopefully I can find it. Thread. Okay. So I'm just having a look. Okay, the section 28 bit is what it says. It is going to restrict schools from using materials that encourage pupils to question their gender. And this is very similar to section 28, which said schools shall not intentionally promote homosexuality or publish material with the intention of promoting homosexuality or promote the teaching of in any maintained school of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship. So there was deliberate vagueness in the original section 28, where it was brought in by the Tories in the 80s, and there's deliberate vagueness in this. So this is anti-trans propaganda, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of commentators on this are concerned. Like, this is going down the route of the state imposing its transphobic agenda onto trans kids and their classmates, which is absolutely 100% wrong. It will give transphobic bullies plenty of ammunition to bully trans kids and will effectively give them permission to do so. I'm not happy about it. And it's the guidance effectively replaces the word transgender with gender questioning. This is designed to delegitimize trans kids and say, no, the way you feel about yourself is not valid, and therefore you are invalid. It's really grim. It's really, really fucking grim. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it sounds as though they got as close to Section 28 as they could within the law. Yes, Gallifreyan man. That's the way I read it as well. Instability in the Middle East is vital to those people existing at this point, says Cruty. I don't know who you mean by these people, but the instability in the Middle East is not a given. And it is one of the cruelest jokes that if there is a God, that God ever, put on this planet is they took the most contentious religious zone in the world and filled it with oil. Unlimited resources and unlimited wealth. Pretty much unlimited. I always think of that scene from the movie Blood Diamond, where there's an old man in the village. The village, everyone's been massacred. Everyone's dead, apart from this one old guy. And they're fighting over diamonds. They're fighting over these fucking diamonds from Sierra Leone. To bling up the fingers and head and earlobes of the super wealthy. And this old man says to the main characters, let's hope they don't find oil, because then our troubles will really begin. Yeah. Which God, says one angry pagan? I don't fucking know. Jesus, mate. Humans have made up about 5 million different gods. So, take your choice. I don't think there's any kind of exclusivity deal at this point. I think it's just that some of us go one God further. Or several gods there if you're polyatheist. Polytheist? I'm a polyatheist. I don't believe in any of them. But yes, which God? It's a very good question. I don't know, mate. It's just, I see a lot of things that happen in the world, and some people want to be horrible. They just want to be horrible. They just want to be horrible people. And Trump, religion, oil, greed, money, capitalism, always gives them an excuse to be as horrible as they like. And I wish those things didn't exist. Some of them don't. Anyway, polytheist. South Park episode cancelled was an interesting take on humanity, says Brett Wall. I don't think I've seen that one. Maybe I have. I don't know. Grimfang says, what I'm reading is trying to tread a middle line. It's much less bad than it could be, but far from ideal. No, I think I'm sorry, I'm with Gallifreyan men on this. I think it's what they could get away with without violating the 2010 Equality Act. And it just seems like there is a war at the moment on trans people in this country. And friends of mine who are trans are not just, concerned. It doesn't go far enough. They're leaving the country. They're giving up to leave, or have already left. A trans friend of mine can't get access to medicine, can't get access to stuff that they need to stay alive because they're trans and they're actively being discriminated against. Kids who are trans can't get their hands on puberty blockers anymore, not even privately. Cisgender kids can, because it's a fairly, it's not a particularly harmful intervention. In Hinduism, there are 330 million gods, says SG. What? Is there that many? Write out all the names and the universe will stop existing. To be in fairness, Grim has a detailed breakdown of it. I'm certain she knows of what she speaks. We need to remember we are not the owners of the planet. We just live here, says Storyteller. Because Teller was taken O2. Yeah, we're just passing through. And we need to pass on a better place than we found it. And that's the opposite of what Trump, what the Tories, what refuck want to do. The Tories left our country in a worse situation, financially, morally, economically, politically, socially. They left it in a worse state in 2024 than they found it in 2010. Unbelievable. The first government in the modern era to do that. The first government to actually leave things worse than they were when they found them. Not even the Tory government of 79 to 97 did that. It's actually quite mind-blowing, to be honest. We are custodians. Yeah, I completely agree. Right, I'm going to go now because it's nearly 1 o'clock and have some fucking breakfast because I'm bloody starving. So thanks very much for sticking with us for this marathon 4-hour sesh today. I'll be back at 6 o'clock for some reason this evening with Rachel. We're going to be talking about movies or video games or music. I don't fucking know. We'll be talking about something cool. So come and join us on our Anything But Politics show. And we'll be talking about anything but politics. Because politics is... says the guy who runs the Politics Social channel. I like the social part of it. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for all your comments. And give us a like. The least you could do. Give us a like on the way out. I don't think we got too many likes on the show this morning. Because it was very boring for a while. And then when it starts getting interesting, when they start, starts to have an actual debate, we had to go across to PMQs. I'm tempted to pop back over there and see if they're still going on at the council meeting, but we shall see. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. I'll be back at 6 o'clock tonight. If I can't see you then, for whatever reason, I will see you hopefully at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for Morning Brew. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.